right, folks. Welcome once again, everybody, to Irish Sports Daily Power Hour. I am your host, Mike Frank, here with Jamie Uyeyama, and we have Greg Flamong doing the producing once again on the show. Wanted to mention, if you are not a member of Irish Sports Daily, you can go to the front page and sign up for Irish Sports Daily. Go to irishsportsdaily.com and click on the premium section. You can sign up. Lots going on with recruiting right now. That's kind of the big topic of around Notre Dame football and sports, although there's other things going on. Notre Dame baseball is playing pretty well right now. So there's also, basketball recruiting, all that kind of stuff going on that we're following. But right now, Notre Dame football recruiting seems to be the main topic of discussion, and that's what we'll be talking about today is more recruiting. And also wanted to mention, if you are not familiar with our YouTube channel, you can go to YouTube and search for Irish Sports Daily. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and like our videos. That'll put all our videos in your feed when you go to YouTube, so you can check out everything that we've got going there. Or if you just want to participate with everything that we have going on during the show live, we have a lot of listeners that and viewers that come in and chat, and we'll take some of their comments and things like that throughout the show. So you can check us out there as well. Before we get going, I want to mention our first sponsor, which is ESQ Clothing. ESQ has been making the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedos, and shirts for the last decade, and has been featured on GQ, ESPN, USA Today, and you've seen them dressing your favorite players and coaches. ESQ only gets the best fabric from Italy and England's top mills. With over 40,000 fabrics to choose from, you're guaranteed to look your best. Go visit esqclothing.com and book your appointment. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. Once again, that's esqclothing.com. Yama, well, let's. It's been a quite a ride here with Notre Dame recruiting, and Notre Dame just recently got a commitment from a guy that I know you like a tremendous amount, and that's Tiki Hola. I also like him as well. We had a conversation privately about where we expect him to be and what he's going to be doing, and you see him as a nose guard. It was interesting. I kind of thought, because it just, they had him listed at 270. I'm like, can he get to that 300-pound mark? I think he's gained some weight since then, but just wanted to get your overall thoughts here on Tiki Hola.
Yeah, I definitely see him as a nose guard. I think that, he's a guy that played like 3 down and he plays like end, but it's basically like a 4-eye. But I don't see him as like a 3 tech. He could play there, but I see him more as a nose guard. I just think I watch him at the point of attack and how he can control guys, how violent he is, his hands. I think he's perfectly set up to play there. He's, apparently, we have him listed at 285. I heard he's like around 300 right now. So as Michael Parks mentioned, and that's not surprising to me, because you could tell his lower body is huge. And he's not a guy who's, put all that weight up on his upper body, and that's gonna happen for him. Like, that's easily gonna happen. But I think it's this thing is like, I watch him right now, and he's a guy who probably isn't as weight room strong as you would think, but you just watch him on the field and he is just all kinds of strong, just with the way he is at the point of attack with his hands. And I think there's a picture with him and like Sullivan, Garvin, and all these guys, all the offensive line commits. And, those guys have verified, heights of 6'5", 6'6", whatever. And he is right there as tall as them. So anyone who kind of thought, oh, maybe he's 6'3", but he's actually listed at, he's actually 6'2". It's like, no, this guy's taller than that. He might be 6'4". He's a big kid. He's going to get bigger. I just think he's a perfect 2-down nose guard, and maybe with a little bit more, seasoning, he's got a chance to be a better pass rusher, because he's certainly a guy who can press the pocket and stuff too. And you just see him; he's got a extremely high motor. He made 103 tackles last year, Mike. Like that is an insane number for a defensive lineman. I don't care what level of football you are at. You get triple digits in tackles. That's obviously motor's got a lot to do with it. So I think he's a guy who's he's only going to get better as he physically matures. And I really, really like him as a player.
I do too. Very good with his hands, Jamie. A lot of guys, when we watch defensive lineman film, a lot of guys, their film is just their quickness. You know what I mean? Uh, they shoot a gap and nobody can get a hand on them, and that's why they make the play. A lot of his film is engaging with an offensive line, throwing him beside, to the side, and then going to make a tackle. And that's encouraging to me because you see that he has the ability to use his hands, get violent, throw people around, and you mentioned his lower body. He's got a very, very strong lower body already, and it looks like he could get even bigger down there in the lower trunk. And I think he's got the sky's the limit for this guy. He's going to be a really, really good player. And you mentioned the motor, and I think you in your in the film room, you talked and you said you thought Kurt Heinisch, is kind of a similar player when it comes to the motor, and Kurt was just a, hair on fire, very violent guy, but this guy is going to be probably a good 25 to 30 pounds, more. He's going to be longer. The other thing I noticed too, he does a really good job of staying low. He doesn't get too high when he comes out of his stance and everything. That gives him the ability to play with leverage. And so I'm very excited about it, to see he has the ability to bend and stay low like that. Really, really excited about where this defensive line class is headed. And I just can't believe that they're, when we started this, Jamie, you have a wish list of guys and you're like, boy, man, if they could get some of these guys, it'd be pretty good. There's a chance they could land literally everybody that you really want, that they had a legit shot at. There's a legit chance they could land everybody. And that's so darn exciting when you look at, they've struggled for years and years and years to land elite defensive linemen. And I think that this is going to be by far the best defensive line class I can ever remember Notre Dame recruiting, which is pretty remarkable because there's been some pretty good defensive line classes in the past. So now I guess the next question is, if you take Tiki Hola, which you're clearly going to do, what do you do now at the defensive tackle position? You've got a lot of guys that you're in on. Noah Clark. You're also involved in Marcus Almada. They're hoping they're involved with Alistair Vallejo. We both feel that Elijah Golden is going to be a 3-tech. What do you do here? I mean, if you're Notre Dame, do you take a guy like Noah Clark, who is clearly a nose guard? He's a different body, an even bigger body. Do you take him, or I mean, how do you handle this if you're Notre Dame?
I would take 2 nose guards in the class too. So I don't think that it would be a issue at all taking a guy like Noah Clark, because I think when you look at it, like, even if you look at the previous classes, and you have to recruit based on what you have on your roster and what you have in the previous classes, like, they don't have those types of nose guards like that on the roster. So if you're going to get 2 guys that that are going to be like 300 plus, like, with that kind of like length, obviously Hola was reported he has like an 86-inch wingspan, which is insane. I wouldn't have guessed that, but that's what his coach said. He has an 86-inch wingspan. He's plenty long, like 36-inch arms for Noah Clark. Like, the guy's super long. He's huge. He's the only, like, you're looking at him in the way that you look at Lewis Nix, where you're like, this guy's got to get his weight down like that. That's where he's at, but he's so huge, raw, but there's so much material to work with. So, I mean, I would 100% take those guys. And then honestly too, I would take 2 3-techs as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that gives them the options, because I think if you're looking at all the other guys that they've offered, right, that they're kind of in on, all those other guys are 3-tech types, right? Like, yep. I mean, Golden for sure. Absolutely with Vallejo. Tavian Branch, I think Yeah, Alistair Vallejo, Tavian Branch is a 3 tech, right?
I like this one
Almada
too.
Almada's a 3 tech, right? David Schwartzel's a 3 tech, right? Like Mikhail Blade is maybe an end, but probably is the guy who's going to grow into a 3 tech too, right? So
I agree.
And we'll see with Dre Quinn, because he's a guy who plays inside and out. Although I do think he could be another edge, but that's another guy that if you are going to take another edge in the class, you save a spot for him. He is very
absolutely.
good. So, yeah. So I do think this has a chance to be the best defensive line class they've signed, like maybe ever in the last 30 years or something. I can't tell you about like way back in the day when even some of those like early Holtz classes or whatever, you could say like, yeah, they were loaded or whatever. But if you're going to say like in the last like decade, the best defensive line class they'd signed was a 2016 class, which had obviously it had those 4 defensive ends that all went to the NFL, right? You had Dalen Hayes, you had Julian Aquara, you had Khalid Kareem, you had Ade Ogundeji, but there's no interior guys in that class that they had. This is like they're getting all of the above, right? So you're hitting all the 4 food groups with these guys. Like it's incredible too. So I do think it's a really strong year on defensive line, just like in the class in general, and take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. And I always think too, now that they're at that 105, it's going to be 105, right? It's going to be 105. So you basically have at least 10 extra scholarships to play with, right? Because it's 85. They say you want to take maybe 10 walk-ons, whatever, right? At least 10 other scholarships to play with. I think most of those scholarships should go to the offensive defensive lines. Like, I'd say 6, 7 of them should go to offensive defensive line. Yeah. Because you always need them. And guys get hurt and guys, don't work out and all that. So I think that's, and you could also too, you guys play and rotate on the defensive line. So you can play early. I think they should absolutely go heavy on the defensive line in this class and just take as many as possible.
I'd definitely take 7 for sure if you could. I would absolutely take 7 for sure. And I think that they probably will when it gets down to it. We'll see what happens. So we're looking at 15 commits now, which is obviously a good number heading into kind of official visits. The interesting thing is we have a decision being made here soon with Jonas Walton, the Georgia running back who – it was interesting. I think a lot of people thought, they're not going to have much of a chance at this guy. And I think we all agree that we'll be surprised if he doesn't choose Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame is in the driver's seat going into this announcement. And, man, you look at the situation. If you get 16 there, that's pretty good. You want to be in a good position to where you can close strong and focus on the guys on your official visits, but also – what's nice is to have the guys committed when they come on their official visit. So if you got these guys already committed in the class, that tells everybody else that you're trying to close on, hey, this is a pretty darn good class. Look, we've already got a lot of these guys are committed. So that's more of a sure thing than I might choose Notre Dame. And that helps a lot. So it would be nice, obviously if you get 16 with Walton and then maybe pull another guy in before the official visits go, that would be even better. Certainly possible. Usually during May, though, that's usually the evaluation period time where the coaches are out there, they're meeting all these players, and because you're getting kind of wined and dined by all the other coaches, it's kind of hard to get those commitments because you're getting a lot of attention from all the other staffs and coaches from across the country. So May is not usually a big month for getting a lot of commitments, but Notre Dame's also filling up in a lot of spots too. So there could be some pressure to, hey, we got to do something here. And so we'll see. Notre Dame, we talked about this last time, Jamie. We talked quarterback and running back and wide receiver and tight end in recruiting. And when I look at the situation, we thought the ideal situation would be, Javian Osborne, Brian Bonner, but we were like, heck, if Jonas Walton is the guy, I'm thrilled with that. I still am thrilled with that. If DeStefan Walker is the guy, I'm thrilled with that. But if you could add Jonas Walton to this class, What do you think that says about the running back situation?
I mean, obviously they're done at that point because I mean, I guess if they really wanted to, they could get 3, but that's a pretty good duo right there. And I think Walton's a bit different than Osborne. I think a little bit similar in that they, some of the like the inside running stuff. I think like just lateral movement. I think he's a pretty good receiver too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is.
I think
a lot of film of him catching the ball.
Yeah, the way he's built, I look at him as a guy who's going to be more of a Kedron Young type. Like he's going to be thicker. He already is pretty thick. I know he ran like he's run a 10.6 300 meters. Like he is obviously fast. To me, he doesn't play as fast as like that doesn't show up on the field as much as
Greg and I were just talking about that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of like kind of the big difference. And not to say he's slow, he can pull away from people, but I think there's a big difference between a guy like Love and Price, who those guys can just hit it and go. And his speed is more build-up speed, in my opinion.
Yeah, his first 10 is not as explosive as the others, but once he gets to 20 to 100, meters, that's where I think his speed is. That's where he has the ability to pull away. But
yeah, you can see him pull away in this clip right here.
I don't see the big time explosiveness, but that's okay. I mean, the other thing I like, he's really good in blitz pickup, as you saw there. There's a lot of blitz pickup in this as well, and that's rare to see that in a high school, film from running backs. You don't see blitz pickup very much, and he does a really good job of it. Anyway, so go ahead, Jamie.
Well, yeah, and also too, you don't see a lot of guys that you think, because whenever you think of a blitz pickup and a guy who is advanced in that area, you think of third down, obviously, and he doesn't really have the build of a guy that you would think is a third down back, but he could be a third down back and be a guy who competes for that like pretty early in his career too. So, and I would say, even though you see with Osborne, you see him like physicality wise, he'll pick it up, but I don't think he's at the same kind of level where Walton is. I mean, I like Osborne more than Walton. I think if I was, choosing in between the two, but the thing is, you don't have to choose between the two. And I think you both get pretty good backs. And I think too, when you think about it, you're getting backs. Tiki Hola, obviously a Texas guy. Javian Osborne, Texas guy. Walton, a Georgia guy. Bubba Frazier, Georgia guy, had Georgia offered. Like, this is where you want to recruit. This is where you want to get guys. You're getting blue chips out of those states. That's a big deal.
Let's move on to, I know we already talked about wide receiver, but there's been a couple new offers that have come out. One is Cohen Brown, another kid from Waxahachie, Texas, had been committed to USC. That's kind of a new offer that's out there. I know he's real good friends with Javian Osborne and was planning to take visits, and Notre Dame will probably be one of them. That's exciting. And then, of course, Larry Fitzgerald's son, which is Devin Fitzgerald. I like these two offers, man. I really like these guys. I like both of them. Now, you and I have been, I don't want to say critical, but we've been hoping for a 6'4" guy. But I really like both these guys. I'd take either one of them. I think both of them are very good. When you watch Devin Fitzgerald, you can see he's got some Larry in him, man. He'll battle for the football. He'll come down with it, man. He could come, and he's a good route runner. This kid's a good football player. I'm surprised it took him so long to offer, to be honest with you. I know that they had other guys that kind of fit a role like his, but just his ability to go up and get the football, he really reminds me of Larry in that regard. And while he's not 6'4", he looks legit 6'2". He looks like he can come down with a football. So I like that. I like this offer. How do you see this? It's clear they're probably going to take 5 wide receivers the way it looks, because we feel like they got a really good shot at Kadon Finley. We know they're going to take Braden Robinson, the small kind of gadget guy. So that would be 4 if you land those 4, which I think that they will. There's a good chance they will. And then you have these other 2 that are out there. What do you think of both these guys?
I mean, first of all, Fitzgerald, I would have offered him earlier. I mean, doesn't matter now. They offered him, and he's obviously interested. So, that's a good thing. And I do see a lot of his dad in him. I think you could just see, I think like body control, and you can just see like his ball skills and stuff, and just like you'd love to see that too. And yeah, for a guy too, because I think similar to his dad too, where you're like,
that's a catch.
He wasn't the biggest. Oh yeah, what? Not the biggest guy in terms of like he's not there. There's tall guys, but and maybe not. I bet he probably doesn't test that well. But you're like, oh yeah, he's running away from people. You just see it. You can see the athleticism. And first of all, I love he's a multi-sport guy. He's a lacrosse and basketball guy. That's always good. I think one of the things too with a lot of these guys, when their dad is not even an all-time great, just like an ex-pro, almost all of these guys, I think it's so smart. Like they don't want to like push their kid too hard to be them. So they're not trying to say like, hey, I'm just going to work with you at receiver and just that's it. Because you can see he's an athlete. Like he's just a guy who's played other sports, and they don't like kind of push it on them in the same way. Similar to like a Joe Alt, right? Where he just kind of took his time, but then obviously he's still got he's got the pedigree. He's got the resource of his dad to go to. And I think this guy's going to get a lot better too. So I really like him. I think he's someone that is going to be a lot better than his ranking.
I totally agree. And I think you're right about that. I mean, this is not even on the same level or anything like that. But I mean, as people can see, I'm a musician. My son's actually really talented musically, but he's afraid to play in front of anybody or anything like that because he doesn't want, like dad is an accomplished kind of musician, and he doesn't want people to think, oh, well, I'm not as good as my dad. And that's the thing. He's really kind of, and it's holding him back. And I know that. And I never push it on him. I never push it on him. Never, because I'm sure that that's the surest way to push a kid away is by constantly trying to push something on it. And if he really loves music, he'll end up, pursuing it like I did and doing things. And he does, but just not to the level that I shouldn't say that. I didn't even really start playing guitar till I was 18. So I didn't really even start playing guitar. I was too busy in sports. So I just never, ever really played. I loved music, but I never played. But my point being, there's this kind of stigma when your dad is pretty good at something that you don't want to have to, measure up to that. You don't want people looking at you and saying, well, why aren't you as good as your dad? And so I think that's a big thing for a lot of these guys. And I can tell you just based off of some, intel that I've heard Larry likes the idea of his kid at Notre Dame a lot. And I mean a lot. And I think the kid likes the idea as well. And look, there's so many of those players that are at Notre Dame right now. And, obviously Ryan Clark's son was just there as well. And I think having that experience being around those similar types of kids, you can relate to that. And so I like the kid. I think he's a really, really good, talented player. And I hope that they have a shot to get him. But I'd have a hard time turning down Cohen Brown, too. I really would, Jamie. I like this kid. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I like him too. He's another, obviously a fast guy. Another slot type. 10.6, 900 meters. What I really like about him is the way he tracks the ball down the field. Like I think he tracks the ball really, really well. Like just one of these guys who adjusts to the football well. He's not just like a run straight down the field blowing by guys, right? You can see the receiver skills. You can see a lot of that with him. And he's someone that if he gets a crease, obviously he can do a lot after the catch, right? If he has room. I wouldn't say that like I said, he's got 10.6, 900 meters. It's obviously fast, but I don't see the same Bubba Fraser, right? Like that same because to me, Bubba Fraser's like, hey, that guy gets a step and it's over, right? And I wouldn't say that he's that, but you can see that he's obviously a guy with speed. There's a lot to like about him. So yeah, I'm a fan of his. I think it's a good offer. Obviously, he backed off his commitment from USC. So that's a good thing for Notre Dame too, that, he's going to be wide open. And that's like it was kind of like after he set up the Notre Dame visit. So I think it's a good. I think it's a good sign that they have a good shot at him, right? So,
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's someone too that I think I would view him more though as like, I mean, certainly they could take him, but to me, it's like you get Braden Robinson or you get him. That's how I kind of view him. They're a little bit different, but what's his face is obviously smaller. Robinson's smaller, right? But
Yeah.
I do think they're kind of similar. They're both like slots, right? Like is how I kind of see it. So, yeah, but I do. I mean, I would say too. I see a little bit of like Elijah Burris in his game too, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think he's going to be. I think he's even more polished than Burris at this point. But I think that they're very similar players, and I think that he's going to have a similar type of trajectory. A guy who can play pretty early. I like the fact that we talk about 10, 20, 40 yards, that type of thing. He's a consistent burst guy where it doesn't take him too long to get going, but then he also has the ability to pull away from people as well. And so I just think he's a really talented player, and it'd be hard to turn him down. I don't think Notre Dame will take 6 wide receivers. I'd be surprised, but I would also not be surprised if Notre Dame lost a number of guys at the end of this year, to the portal, because there's going to be a logjam. There's just a lot of guys. They've taken a lot of bodies here in the last couple of years. And if they don't get, the 6'4" Malachi Fields type of guy in this class, they may be looking for that in the portal too, so we'll just have to see how the whole thing unfolds. But I really like this guy, and I think he's a talented player. All right, Yama, I want to get to, kind of move on. We've been going position by position on this, and we've talked about tight end. We've talked about wide receiver, running back, all that type of stuff. And O-line we've talked as well about with Ekene Oboko and Grace Makio. And now we've kind of talked about the defensive line a little bit in today's show, but I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on each guy in the defensive line that's still kind of in the mix here. Where you project them, what you think they're going to be good at. Let's start with Marcus Almada. What do you like about him so far and on his film? I know Christian's supposed to go see him. It's either today or tomorrow. And we'll get a little bit more about him, but seems like Notre Dame's in on the race here too.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what Christian says about him too, because I really liked his film. I thought he's like he's twitchy, really good laterally, like one of these guys that you could see when they slant up front. Like he does a really, really good job of it. And you could see the explosiveness. He's a reactive athlete. I think he's got a chance to be like a really plus pass rusher. He plays end right now. He's a guy who's going to play 3 tech in college. Another guy who plays with pretty good leverage for a guy who's pretty tall too. And I just think he's super active. I think, when I look at him, and obviously I don't have the measurements on him, but he doesn't look as long as some of the other guys. That would be my only like real kind of question about him. And obviously too, you're playing against, no shots at Christian, no shots at Christian, but we know that New England ball, it's not the best ball, right? So it's not the best ball in terms of the guys are going to, and I would say specifically up front is where you see like a big gap between guys, because you see guys like Will Black, who's like, this guy's just so much bigger. He's blocking a 210-pound defensive end, and it's just unfair, right? So, so I think with like Almeida, you can see like he's just better than a lot of these guys. But I like him. I do think he's going to be a 3 tech. That's where I see him.
All right. What about Tavian Branch? I like this guy. It kind of sounds like maybe Penn State, some of those schools, but I like him a lot. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, another guy who's really good laterally, one gap penetrator type. I do think he's a 3 tech too. Maybe you could play a little bit of a nose. He does line up as nose, but it's a lot of it is because they're playing 3 down, and he is just so much quicker than the center and just destroying that guy. To me, he looks like he's a guy who's going to gain a lot of weight. right? But I see him as, he's really strong at the point of attack. Definitely is a guy, great motor, working edge, rip and run. I
Yes.
loved his film. I
did too.
I really, really liked him. And I think sometimes, when you look at some of the times when they offer these guys, these newer guys, when you're like, they still got other good guys on the board, you're thinking, maybe it's out of desperation. It's like, nah, these guys are all good. It's like, these are like the film, backs it up too. So I'm a big fan of his. Here you see him, like, obviously, just quick little arm over. He's just super quick,
very quick. And I don't know. I mean, the late kind of offer, you think that hurts you a little bit? I mean, obviously teams like Penn State got a head start on it. I haven't seen him schedule an official visit yet. Have you seen that? I haven't seen anything about an official visit
I haven't
yet.
seen it. No.
Yeah.
I just read Christian's original update on him.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see whether Notre Dame even has a chance with this guy. But his quickness for an interior player is very, very rare. Especially for somebody that size. And I agree with you. I think he's going to get quite a bit bigger too. And just a violent player. I really like his film, and I think he's a really good player. Noah Clark, big, huge body run stuffer. Lewis Nix type of guy. Those guys never really look like pretty. You know what I mean? They never look like we just saw with Branch there. You're not going to see that kind of quickness and that type of thing. But what they do is they just eat up space, and they're immovable objects. And, Georgia's had tons of them over the years, just tons of big dudes like that make it extremely hard in the run game to move somebody like that. And I mean, I think Notre Dame has seen that against, I think Louisville's had some players like that in the best. Clemson certainly has had some big dudes like that can clog up the middle. So it's really important to have these kind of big bodies. And Notre Dame has just not had a body like this since Lewis Nix. What do you like about him?
Yeah, to me, actually, I was thinking of another guy that Notre Dame faced this year was Zeke Biggers from Georgia Tech, right? Who was like a 6'6", 330 guy, and just was impossible for Notre Dame to move. Right,
like
they had trouble. Yeah, they had real trouble. They had real trouble moving him inside, and I think like Biggers, it's the same thing. When you could saw on that last snap, when his snap anticipation is on point, he is wrecking guys. It's just that level of consistency. And it's just like, I mean, whether it's a big man in basketball, big man in football, it is about a level of consistency that you need to have there, and footwork and all these kind of things matter. But if he develops like he should, I mean, he's going to play in the league, and he's going to play in the league for a long time, and he can be a dominant player. Right. So, I think that's why too, to me, no doubt, even though, I like Hola, and I think that Hola is a nose and Clark is a nose too. It's like, that's Georgia. When we're talking about Georgia, that's what they do. They stack up these guys. And then it's like, well, the second team, D line's out there. It's like, oh, we can't run against them either. Right. Like, that's kind of what the deal is. Right. So, I'm a big fan of his. He's super, super long, and I think he is going to be, if he develops and keeps his weight under control and all that, he's got a sky high ceiling.
He does, and when we talk about quickness, he doesn't quite have the lateral quickness, but his straight ahead quickness to get to the quarterback, get to the ball carrier, it's there. It's just kind of the left right quickness that a guy that size, it's rare to see anybody have that. But I really want the guy. I think he's exactly the kind of guy that they've been missing. What about David Schwarzel? He's from Seattle. Guys seem pretty interested. I haven't seen a visit scheduled yet, and I think it's probably Notre Dame is trying to figure out who the legit targets are and where to slot them as far as where it comes. Now that they got Hola in will they recruit as many of these guys? I don't know. We'll see. But I think Notre Dame's trying to figure out, okay, now we have Hola in place. We've had Golden on campus. We know where we stand with him, or we have a pretty good idea. So how many of these guys are we actually going to bring on campus? And that'll be interesting to see whether they continue to push with Schwarzel and some of these other guys. But what do you like about him?
Yeah, he's another guy who plays end, but he's going to be inside, and he's like, probably weighed around 250 last year, but he's closer to like 280 something now, and he's going to just keep getting bigger, right? Like, and he's definitely a 3 tech where you can see the pass rush potential with him. He's a guy good get off. I mean, anytime you see a guy dip like that, that's always that's always good at that size too. And just like a super high motor guy too. Another guy where you just look at him and I just look at his traits and I think, man, I can easily see another one of those guys where he was not more of a recent offer, but you're like, I totally get why they offered this guy. And I think once he moves inside, he's going to be too quick for a lot of those guards, right? And that's what I kind of see with him. Yeah, and I mean, I hate to be so gushing over all these guys, but I really like all the guys that they offered and they're in on.
Yeah. Good job of evaluation by the staff. I mean, I really think that they've done a really good job of evaluating a lot of these guys and excited about his potential. And it's interesting. You mentioned the guards thing, and this is why I'm always harping, Jamie, on quickness. Right at offensive line, it's very important because you're going to have to face a dude like this who's extremely, extremely quick, and that's why it's important. You don't want just a big giant body as an interior guard. You need somebody who has the ability to move left and right and have some quickness, and so it is important on the other side of that as well. I don't think they're in on Damari Simeon right now. I don't think that. Which is disappointing because I do think he visited and I like the guy. I think he's a really good player. But, if you can give me Alistair Vallejo, I'm more than happy to make that trade. Thoughts on Alistair Vallejo?
Yeah, I mean, to me, and Greg and I were talking a little bit about him on Hit and Hustle last week too. Man, he's just so active. With his hands and just as a pass rusher where you see him win in a variety of ways. You see him win from multiple alignments. You see him just do a lot of different things. I think he might be the guy that out of the later offers has the biggest upside out of all of them. And,
he's explosive, dude.
Explosive because you just see like how flexible he is, how twitchy, just the motor. I think sometimes you could see him pop out of his stance a little bit too high, and that would be like the one thing of like just leverage. But you could just see he's just a reactive athlete and who's put on a lot of weight, but still looks like the exact same kind of athlete. And that's always encouraging to see, right? Because sometimes those guys lose it and you never get it back, right? So the fact that that's happening for him, I think he's someone who can line up like, he's a 3 tech, but he's a guy who can play multiple alignments, right? And kind of like you can line up over and he can win as a pass rusher all over, right? And and you see too, like, I mean, he blocks a kick there, like he's a playmaker. Like the guy's just made a ton of plays. I think he's the most underrated out of, he didn't have a ranking when they offered him. Like from any of the sites. And I mean, that's going to change. He's going to skyrocket up. I just think his film is just too damn good. Like he is really, really good.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put it on you, dude. I'm going to put it on you. As far as, well, actually we got to talk about the defensive ends now that I think about it. Mikael Blade, what do you like about him?
Oh, great frame, plenty of room to add. He's got twitch. He's a guy super raw with his hands, right? He's super raw with his hands, like a lot of guys. It's not, that's not unique or anything like that. But you could see like the speed to power. You could see the flash at the point of the attack. You just love his traits, right? And I think that's the thing is like he's a traits guy that you just see like you could see the building blocks there. And I would say it's kind of a little bit similar to Christopher Burgess, right? Who they took in the last class, who really, really kind of took off, and I was kind of waiting for him to take that step, and then when he did as a senior, you were like, whoa, like this guy's has a chance to be special. So I think you can see that, you can see the pieces of that with Blade. It's just that he's kind of just scratching the surface of that right now.
Unfortunately, been injured. That's the
Yes.
problem. He's just been injured, and it'll be interesting to see if he's 100% healthy. Coming into the season and how well he does. But good twitch. I think he could be, like you said, an interior player. In the end, he may grow into that. But I think he has a potential if he stays, athletic and has after this injury, he could play your strong side defensive end type of situation. But I like him. Good player. Xavier Griffin Haynes, another guy that I'd heard was very heavily leaning towards Notre Dame and was thinking about committing, and then all of a sudden his visit got canceled due to weather, and they never got him back up here. What do you like about him?
Well, he's definitely an edge guy to me. I think he's probably like a viper, to be honest, and man, just twitch. I think he plays really, really hard. Like he's a guy who's going to get like, I love how he plays versus a run. And I think he's only going to get better as he gets stronger. Like he's going to be a really, really high level run defender. And he has like just awesome pass rush traits. And he's a great chase player. You can see like the lateral quickness and all that. To me, he's just more raw than some of the other guys. Like if I was going to, compare him to like Dunham, and he is closer to Ewatade in terms of like his rawness, where Dunham is obviously a little bit more advanced than those guys. But you can see he's skinny right now, but what an athlete. Like look at this guy move, right? He is going to be he's going to be good. It might just take a bit longer for him to get there, right? But there's a lot of like kind of like Julian Okwara in him.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that's what you're going to get with him. It's going to take some time. I think he's bigger than Julian coming out. No question. I think Julian.
Yeah, he's definitely bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's bigger, but I think he's raw, like you mentioned, and it's going to take some time. And then Elijah Golden, we have him, or he's been listed as a defensive end. I think we're in agreement. He's the 3 technique in the end. I think that's where he's going to end up. This guy is a limit for him. I just think he's going to be a really special player. Can't wait to see. I hope that they land him because he's going to take a little bit of time. He's a little bit raw, but just his ability to move left and right, his quickness, it also plays good strength, and I like him. I like him a lot. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think huge potential. He's got just absolute freaky traits. It's 35-inch arms, weighed in at 6'4", 262, which is one of the reasons too why you're like, this guy's already 262 and he looks like skinny. Like he's going to put on more weight. An 8'8" broad jump at that size is impressive. It's very impressive. I think for him, he is just the most raw. I think he's actually his traits kind of take over, but he is the most raw technically out of all of these guys, where you just see like inconsistencies with his just like snap anticipation, with just like his hands and his leverage and stuff. And if he's a guy who puts the work in, he is going to be just fantastic. But it's going to be about putting the work in and taking that time, because there's going to be some growing pains, I think, with him. But so he might not be a guy who, and he might take a big jump as a senior. We'll see. But I do think he's probably as someone who's not going to come in right away and be close to the player that he's going to end up being. But the player he can end up being is like, he could be a 1st-round pick one day. Like that's how like awesome his traits are.
I think he needs a coach like Al Washington, and that's not to say that, he should go to Notre Dame or whatever, but just somebody who's got a lot of experience coaching the position, because I think if he finds that, he's going to be a very special player. Want to is obviously, you always got to have that. And I'm not saying that he doesn't. I think he has that. It's just, I think to get, as you mentioned, to get to the level that he needs to be at or could be at, he's going to have some want to, because there's going to be a learning curve there and everything. All right, so now I'm going to put you on the spot. Notre Dame can take one more nose guard, 2 3 techs, and 1 more defensive end. Who do you take, Yama?
Well, I would take Noah Clark as the other. knows, I would definitely take him. I would take Vallejo and Elijah Golden as the 3 techs. And we didn't talk about him because I guess we didn't know. But if he is on the list, I would take Drake Quinn because I do really, I'm a big fan of Drake Quinn, but I don't know like where kind of things stand there. I do believe he still has a official scheduled, so we'll see. But if not him too, I mean, I would lean to more towards Xavier Griffin Hayes, just because I think just over Blade, just because I think he's more of a Blade is maybe going to be a 3 tech, whatever, and Griffin Hayes I think is going to be an edge for sure.
Yeah. I agree 100% with that, and it'll be interesting. I didn't mention Drake Quinn because we haven't seen a lot from him afterwards, and I love him. I would take him in a heartbeat. I think he's a tremendous talent, and it's not that I have heard anything that says that he's not interested. And as you mentioned, he has an official visit scheduled, but usually you just hear a little bit more about guys that they're going to have a good shot at, and although I haven't seen a lot of like interviews with him or anything, so I don't know if he's been going around or anything, but I just haven't heard a lot since the visit. And the other thing too is he didn't give a lot of interviews after the visit. And usually guys that are really, really interested, they love to get interviews afterwards. And so I think that gives me a little bit of pause as far as how much interest he has. I guess we'll see. All right, Yama, we went through the defensive line. We'll get to linebackers and DBs next week. We got a bunch of questions that I want to get through here from ISD customers, and so let's get to those. Is there any concern at this point? We haven't sent out offers for 2027 recruits at quarterback. I know the staff's trying to stay in contact, but we're now in the middle of May. I have a hard time buying this obscenely drawn out process will work out better than just recruiting normally. Here's what I think. I think Notre Dame has done a good job of communicating with the 2027 quarterbacks and saying, look, there's a lot of you that we're interested in. We want to take a look at you. We want to see you throw. A lot of these guys haven't been to campus to throw for Notre Dame. Gino wants to go out and look at them. I think it's more important to get it right than it is to get somebody early. So I like the fact that they're being very, very particular and picky about it. Would have I liked to seen these offers come out quicker? Yeah, probably. And I'm sure the kids probably would too. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is you get the guy that you believe in and think can be really good. And I think so much of that, I think it would have been nice if all these guys had come and visited, and a number of them did, right? A number of them did, but there are also some guys they were interested that didn't make it to campus. And I think that they wanted to both gauge their interest as to whether they're actually interested, or two, also just see them throw and also pick their brain a little bit, find out what type of a guy he is. So much of this is cerebral. So much of it is personality. So much of it is leadership that you can't just discount it and just say, okay, well, I like this guy's film, let's offer him. There's so much more to it at that position that I do think it's important to do your due diligence. Now, if you're Texas, right? If you're Ohio State, if you're, schools that have put a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, those kids are going to show up on your campus. Notre Dame hasn't done that. They haven't put a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. So you're not going to get as much interest in guys just begging to come on campus. And I think that that's been the biggest problem that they've had here. But, as long as they get a guy they really like, I'm fine with the process. But I understand the concern that, hey, maybe we should get this moving a little bit sooner. But I think the big thing that they've done is done a really good job of explaining this situation. And, I do think that they're going to need to get involved with somebody, or at least a couple, very soon. And my guess is we'll see that. What is your dream finish to the current class, and how far off is a realistic finish do you think it would be? I think we kind of already talked about it. I think we're going to be thrilled with Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton. Yama, I mean, what if you had to pick 5 receivers? Who would we already have 2? Who would the other 3 be for you?
I mean, I would take I would take Kate on Finley for sure. Braden Robinson, and then Fitzgerald.
I'd have a hard time arguing with that. I really would, and I like Brian Williams' bigger body. I like that, but I think that Fitzgerald is scratching the surface, and I think he's going to be very close to. Well, first of all, I think he could be better than Brian Williams. In the end, we'll see. Tight end, they're going to take 2. It really only looks like Evan Jacobson, Matt Ludwig, and Ian Premer right now. I think a lot of people would say, Ludwig Premer, and that would make sense. But, you do need an inline blocker, so Jacobson would be in there. Do you have a preference here, Jamie?
To me, I think either one, if you ended up with if you just say okay, well, Jacobson's one, either one of Ludwig or Premer, I think both those guys have a chance to be elite receiving tight ends in college.
Personally, I'd take Premer and Ludwig over Jacobson myself, but you do.
Well, I mean, if you could get both of those guys, 100%,
Yep.
Agree with there.
I assume we're in agreement that Ekene Aboko, although I'd be thrilled with Mikio too. I think both those guys are really good players. I think Mikio is very underrated myself, but I assume you agree with Aboko.
Yes.
All right, we've already talked D-line, kind of did it. What about linebacker? I mean, obviously, Talanoa Ely would certainly be mine, but, is that realistic? I don't know. And we won't know. He may show up on campus and absolutely love it, Jamie. It's happened before, I don't think a lot of people felt like they were going to get Manti Te'o at all. And and then all of a sudden he showed up on campus and was surprised by it. So, but I would say that'd be my pick. And then it doesn't sound like they're going to get Jordan Thomas. I'd be surprised if they do. So, what would be your ideal situation for corner and safety at this point?
I mean, Joey O'Brien and Corey Adams. Because Joey O'Brien obviously could play corner, could play safety. So there's that for both those guys. They are obviously already got Aiden Pouncey and Chester Smith. And then I'd probably say Reddish, just because I think he's a really high floor kid. I think he's a super smart player. But I would say
Reddish more than you do. I do. I like Reddish more than you do. I do. I think he's a really good player. Smart.
I think he is a really smart player. I'm just not sure how fast he is. But I mean, certainly his film looks great.
Greg, put that film up. I want to show you one thing here, Yama. Put that film up, Greg. Put Nick Reddish up. I want to show you one thing.
But
I don't know if Greg can do it.
Hold on.
You're on mute, buddy.
Give me 1 second. I'll throw it up in one. Let me just search it up and I'll get him up here.
All right, I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks, man. He's doing a great job of producing this show.
Awesome job.
He's the man. Greg is the man. There's no doubt about it. Go ahead.
I mean, I would say the big thing too is that, and I guess we'll kind of find out. I think we'll have a clear picture at the end of this month about corner, just of in terms of some other guys too. Because it's nice to say Joey O'Brien and Corey Adams, but I mean, would you say hey, they're getting those guys today? I don't know. So that seems more in question than a lot of the other spots. So I think that is probably, if you're going to look at one spot where maybe it might not be a dream finish, it's DB is probably the most, likely out of it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and I mean, a lot of people are asking, well, why would that happen? But look, what is happening, and it's obvious what's happening. Mike Mickens went and interviewed for some defensive coordinator jobs, and every single person that's competing against Mike Mickens is saying, look, he just went and interviewed here. These are the places he just went and interviewed. He's obviously interested in a defensive coordinator position. He has been around some great defensive coordinators. He's going to be somebody that is going to get a defensive coordinator job. He's not even going to be there to coach you. That's what they're saying. And is it having an impact? It may. It may. But the other thing that I will say about this is, just like the Sider situation, you don't think that Marcus Freeman knew that DeLon McCullough would probably be leaving very shortly? Of course he did. And Sider even said it, in his interviews. He was like, I already told Marcus, as soon as you have a spot open, you don't even worry about it. I'm coming if you want me. I'm coming. I guarantee you Marcus Freeman's had that conversation with the next guy. And I guarantee he has. I don't know that for a fact, but he's smart. He's had that conversation. And look, whether people want to believe it or not, people want to work for Marcus Freeman. They do. They love the culture that you see that he is building. If you're a coach, I'm telling you, there's not really any other place that I think I would choose, even if I wasn't a Notre Dame fan, that I would choose because of what he's building and the quality of people that you get to work with. I mean, Mike Denbrock said it specifically when he came back. He said, hey, it's, you get to work with just a different level of person at Notre Dame. And that's what was so attractive to me. So, you can't sit there and go out there and recruit and say, well, Mike Mickens is going to be gone, or he could be gone. And I've already talked to the other guy and his name is, so-and-so, and he coaches it here. You can't say that, but this is the kind of thing that happens behind the scenes, and whoever that person is, I think is going to be a very, very quality coach and somebody who's going to be very interested in Notre Dame to coach there. So, Fifth Quarter Irish says, want to get set some expectations for summer. The current team, can you confirm I'm on track? They will return in June after a short break and school lets out. All the transfers and incoming freshmen will be in for summer workouts, except those who have serious injuries like Cooper Flanagan. Will we likely get limited scuttlebutt about the team until just before training camp? Maybe some word about who is looking good in workouts, general terms. Yeah, I mean, that's usually the way it works. There's not a lot of stuff that leaks out. We'll hear about stuff, but it's also because you're not doing football things, really. You're doing, you're building your body. You're getting into season shape. You're playing some 7-on-7 and you're doing some lineman drills. But that's not football. I mean, that's learning the system. That's working with your quarterback. That's getting some reps and things like that as a corner, but it's still not football. I mean, and so there's not a lot of stuff that goes out because they're not doing a lot of football. I mean, what are you going to learn about a linebacker, in summer? You're not going to learn anything. You're just not. It's not. They're not doing linebacker things. Some of them are playing in coverage and things like that, and that's fine. But that's not whether you get on the field is how well you cover in 7-on-7. That's not how you get on the field as a linebacker. So I think your expectations, I think, are good.
Just tell me when you want the reddish. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, put.
You want to know?
Yeah, put it up there.
All right, let's.
All right, Jamie. I just want to show you a few things here. I think it's in the first couple.
All right.
First couple plays.
Let me press play on our guy, and we'll get going.
All right. See, this is why we have Greg. He's
okay, just
point
out whenever it's
play. What was the first play? Or did I miss the first play?
He had a pick six.
He had a pick six.
He had a pick six.
Okay. What was the one where he just absolutely tattooed somebody? I thought it was the first play. Maybe I'm wrong. Look at that.
No, first play was the pick six.
Okay. All right. Maybe I missed it. I thought it was the first play.
Maybe it's that.
I mean, that's a great play right there. I really like him as a player. I said the only question I have, is just I'm not 100% sure.
Jamie, speed. See that? Yeah. See that? Oh, okay. You okay with that? Is that good enough speed for you?
Is
that good enough?
I'm just telling you. I call it like it is. You know me. I'm not a guy who hates on these kids. I like them, right?
Was that good speed? That's just what I'm saying. I thought that was
now
pretty good speed.
now you're gonna have me rooting for him to be bad, so I don't hear this for 4 years.
What is it? Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Are you worried about his
Listen,
speed?
I think he's I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good safety. I think he's a really good safety.
All right. We're going to say I know the Irish staff love him. That's for sure. All right.
They do, yeah.
All right. Given how young Freeman is,
sorry. One thing I just wanted to add about like the stuff with the summer stuff is before we never used to get anything really, like, just tidbits here and there or whatever, some people kind of telling us about, hey, this guy's having a good summer or whatever. But now, at least, because there's part of the summer they do, and they go out and work with their private coaches, and we do get some like clips and stuff. I know like Chris and Matt have done stories with some of those private coaches talking about some of those things too. So we do get a little bit more on some of those things. Mostly that's for linemen and the skill guys that you get, like you said, like linebackers. You're not going to get a ton of stuff from that stuff, but you will get some of that. And I always think it's good to get it, because I think it was kind of instructive with guys like Patello and Snead last year, because I think it really helped them.
Yeah. Given how young Coach Freeman is, he could be coaching for a long time. How long do you think he will coach the Irish if he keeps winning and Indy gives him what he needs? I think for a very long time. I think until it gets kind of stale for him, or I think until he struggles to get. Usually, what happens, I think, when coaches continue to get robbed with their coaches, and that's going to happen with him, especially if you're successful. I think that's what wears you down as a coach more than anything, or if you get in a situation where you feel like you can't compete because something about your school doesn't allow you to compete. But I think if anything that's going to push him out the door, it'll be either Notre Dame not giving him the stuff that he needs, but I really don't think that's going to happen, or two, he's constantly having to replace these elite coaches that he finds, and it's hard to continue to hit home runs with guys. It just is. There's only so many good coaches out there. And I think sometimes that makes it, you then want to have a reset and that type of thing. I know a lot of people think he's dying to go to Ohio State, but I really don't believe that. I think his wife is very happy based off of everything I've heard. She loves it here at Notre Dame. The kids love it here at Notre Dame. So I don't think he's in any hurry to leave. Now, maybe just because everybody would like to tempt, and see whether you could compete at the next level. Maybe there's an NFL job down the road that he takes. But I do think he is he's more of a college kind of guy, and that he's a locker room guy. He's a guy who's a motivator and a guy who builds culture and things like that. That certainly is important at the NFL. I mean, Dan Campbell has done a good job with the Lions by building that kind of culture and what they're trying to do. And I think they can go a long way. And because of the success that Dan Campbell's had with the culture part of things, I would not be surprised if the NFL starts looking for more guys who build that type of way versus, we're going to do the best in the draft and all this. And obviously the Lions have done a good job with that too. But, I think NFL, or if he struggles keeping his staff, I think those would be probably the two things that would entice him more than anything else. Any thoughts from you there, Jamie?
Well, I think too, if he's really successful and if he wins, multiple national championships at Notre Dame, then maybe you go and say, well, I'm looking for the next challenge or something, right? Like that's something that could happen. I also think it's a grind. It's a lot of work to be a college head coach at a place like Notre Dame. So I think he's a young man. Could I see him coaching at Notre Dame for 20 years? I think it's possible for sure. But also, you see guys get burned out and say like, I don't want to do this at this rate I want to take a break from it too. So I think it's so early on that, but there's so much in front of him. I have a hard time if I was going to say like, if you say how long is he going to be? I'm like, I can't see him coaching at Notre Dame for less than 10 years. That's just my opinion. But, and obviously he could coach for a lot more, but that's what I think. I think, like you said, Mike, he's happy. He's getting all the resources he needs. Things are going really well like that. Maybe if things aren't going well and there's others, then that changes. But as of right now, the way things are trending, I think it looks good for him to be the head coach for Notre Dame for a long time.
I think so too, and I think there's a real good chance he's going to win a national championship and maybe win multiple if he does win one, and that'll keep you around for a while. But I agree. I think after a while, the grind of doing something over and over for a long time, it sooner or later you want a different thing, Although I've been doing this for 25 years and I still love it, and so it is what it is. I think that. He's going to be at Notre Dame for quite some time unless something crazy happens. All right. A guy kind of wanted us to pick amongst players. We've already kind of done that just when we were talking about our dream class or whatever. I do think this is an interesting question he has, though, which is who are the 5 best coaches in college football? That's an interesting question, Yama. What do you think? And me personally, I put Marcus Freeman in there as one of the 5. I'll have to think about the other 4, but go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think he's earned it right now. So he would be in there. I would put Ryan Day in there. I mean, the guy just won a national championship. The way
I would too.
If you look at how many games that he's won, just in general, like he's got to be in there. Kirby Smart definitely got to be in there. I mean, I'm not a fan of Dabo, but it's hard not to put Dabo.
I'd put him in there as well, and I'm not a fan either. But he's earned it.
You can't argue with just
I'm
how
telling you, he's turning it around again. He is. I'm telling you, Clemson's going to be tough, man. They're starting to land dudes again, man. They're going to be tough. Just watch. And I think what they were lacking, what they were lacking was their O-line coach, and they got the guy now, and they're doing a good job recruiting offensive linemen too. And defensively, I'm still, but I think they're getting dudes, man. They're going to be tough. I'm sorry. I would put Dabo in there for sure. I agree with all your guys so far. So who's the last one? It's a tough one for me.
It's tough. And I know like it would be easy to kind of pick somebody who's like, hey, they just keep winning at like a level that's, good enough but they're maybe not at a school that's a national championship contender. But I really don't think like, until you kind of go up a level to that level, I think it's hard to kind of judge with some of that, which is why I wouldn't put anyone up there in the top 5. Like, I don't think they would deserve it. It's tough. I'm going to say I'm going to say Steve Sarkisian, because look at how they recruit. Incredibly, they recruited at a super high level. Look at how bad Texas was for years at the end of Mac Brown to then. Like, they were in a funk. He's brought them back-to-back years. They're in the top 4. They're going to be a contender to win it all pretty much every year that he's there. That's how they've built it. They got it rolling there, but other people had the resources and they didn't get it rolling like that. So yeah. I got to give it up to him. And I mean, Dan Lanning would probably be my honorable mention, because I think what he's doing at Oregon is really, really big time. But I got to give it up to Sark. Sark's up there for me too.
I'd have to say that too, and those were my final 2 as well. And I would choose Sarkisian because I think he's had the harder job. I think Lanning took over, and there's still a lot of really good players there. Still a pretty solid culture there. I mean, what Sark had to rebuild. I mean, that team just flat quit in a lot of games. They just flat quit, and that's hard to overcome. That's hard to win. And
it's bad culture.
Yeah, it really was. And so I got to give him, the credit there. I got to give it to Sark at this point. And but I think Dan Lanning's a pretty good coach. But is he an elite guy? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. All right. I know we're getting ahead of myself here, but let's say guys like Shrouth, Jugasaw, Wagner, Greathouse, Traore, Bowen, Schuler, and Gray all have good years. All of them could be decisions. Could be mid-round to high picks, blah, blah, blah. Do you think ND would find funds to find it appealing to come back? I mean, first of all, yeah. I mean, look, you're going to pay an elite guy that's proven it at Notre Dame over some young, recruit. You're just going to. It'd be stupid not to. So the vast majority of money Notre Dame's going to have is going to go to the guys who've already earned it. And so they're going to try and do it. I mean, I'd be shocked if all those guys, played themselves into, high first round, second round, third round picks. I think that they're some of their potential could be there. But I'd be surprised if they all kind of did that this year. But I do think that there's certainly some guys who will have decisions. We know Jeremiah Love will probably be gone and probably JD Price too. But out of those guys, it's hard to say. Offensive lineman, Charles would only really play 1 year at that point. If he would be there, they'd probably like to see another year, although his size is what it is. Wagner, if he had a great year, you still got the size problem. So I think that's going to take him out of the second round and maybe certainly out of the first round, but maybe out of the second round too. But, third round money and you've been there for a while, maybe that makes sense. Great house. What is he going to run? He's not overly tall. He's not overly big. He's going to have to run, low 4.4s in order to be a consistent, a guy that I think would be a second round, third round pick. So I don't know. Any thoughts from you on that, Jamie?
I mean, if all those guys played good enough to it be a real choice, that means Notre Dame's winning a national championship, pretty much. I think like if all those guys are playing at that level, but I mean, mid to late round pick, those guys stay. Everyone now. That's what it is. Like, it's just like, unless a guy truly hates school or they have like problems or whatever, right? Like, especially at Notre Dame too. So I don't think guys like Shrouth and Wagner, because those guys they're going to have their degree, right? Because it's going to be their fourth year, right? Like, so that's different than all those other guys because those guys are third year guys and not all those guys will have their degree. And when you're so close to it, and some guys leave because whatever, but like most of those guys want to just finish and get that, and then also be able to like have that, and then they go into grad school, whatever. But the focus is grad school, the focus is ball, so then they can get to that next level and then be a high pick or whatever. So I think the odds of all those guys leaving, especially if they were like mid-round picks, whatever, like no, like mid-round, no one. Very few guys are leaving just based on a fourth round grade or something like that. And even if you look at, say, like Julian Love left early after 3 years and he was a fourth round pick. Well, I mean, he was a 2-time All-American. So yeah, like it's different. And none of these guys would be that.
All right. If ND goes 1-1 against Miami and Texas A&M to start the year, what game do you think would be more important for the trajectory of the 2025 season and the trajectory of moving the program forward? I mean, first of all, I don't think they're going to go 1-1. I think they're going to win both those games myself. That's just my personal opinion. And where is ND the most vulnerable against Miami and Texas A&M, and how does that match up with each opposing team's strength? What are your thoughts there, Jamie?
Well, I think I don't know if I do think that they're going to beat both these teams, to be honest. But
I do.
I think it's just like losing against Northern Illinois. None of them is ideal to lose, right? So there isn't an ideal one, or this one is better. Because either way, one is going to be, you lose a game and it's supposed to be like a motivator for the rest of the year. So that's just kind of what it is. I don't really see either being a greater trajectory for the program than others. I think where they're most vulnerable against Miami and Texas A&M, I mean, I would say with A&M, it would be like quarterback run, because that's what Reed does. And when he's at his best, that's what he's been awesome. But he hasn't been a good passer yet. So if he's not that, then that's, that takes kind of a lot off of them. But I think like the run game with them and like the quarterback run game specifically would be the thing to kind of like hone in on in that game. I think against
that's
Miami,
why we're playing more zone. That's why we're playing more zone in this for him.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And I would think for Miami, to be honest, I wouldn't even pick anything from Miami that would make me think that they're like, I just think how Miami's set up. I don't really think that they have like a strength there. Like I understand Carson Beck. If he's the same guy that he was, like the best version of the guy he is at Georgia, he still has worse receivers than he had at Georgia and then all that Miami had last year. And their defense still like has a ton of questions. And so I don't know how good their defense is going to be either. So like, they might have like Ruben Bain is a really good pass rusher and they got some guys in the D line, but like, I don't think those guys are like scary enough to say like, man, these guys are going to take over the game in that kind of way either. So I don't know. It's to me, it's a question whether or not they will have a vulnerability. It's like, just if they play bad, they don't play well. Yeah.
That's what it is. That's where I think that's where you got to be concerned. If they beat themselves and make mental mistakes and let the crowd, get into their head too, that's the only thing that worries me about
first
that Miami
game, new
game.
quarterback.
Yeah, that's the only thing that worries me about that Miami game is, you have some costly turnovers and you let the crowd get into it. And if you do that, then I think that's one of those things that it could get out of control, or it could be an issue. So, last question: will you be doing another exclusive with Denbrock this year? I'm certainly going to try. It's just, I mean, I'd do an exclusive with every coach if they'd let you. It's just what will they let you do? We will certainly ask, and what they let us do is what they'll let us do. And but we will certainly ask, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. Mr. Flamong, you got anything you want to add?
I just wanted to highlight Buddy Mitchell. He sent us a super chat, said he appreciate the show. Just wanted to shout him out. Thank you for that. We appreciate that, the support.
I want to say thank you to Greg Flamong for such a tremendous job of producing the show, and all the video you've added. It's really made the show great. And the Mongers, he's the man. I'm telling you. We just
want to elevate, we're just trying to elevate the show all the time.
We're trying to elevate our game. Yama still needs the hat though. I got to get you the hat, dude. I would ship it, but Amazon won't ship. Like I can't buy it in the United States and ship it to Yama. So I got to figure it out.
Well, those tariffs now will get you.
Well, that's probably true.
I actually think it's true. Like it would probably be like it'd probably double what it is now.
Who knows? It would be worth it though. We got to figure it out. All right, that's gonna be it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back next week, and we're gonna talk some linebacker and some defensive back, and hopefully we're talking about Jonas Walton picking Notre Dame as well. So thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you next week on Power Hour.